For those of you who are not aware of Emal, Emal is a seasoned senior business analyst and a business architect with extensive experience in both waterfall and agile methodologies. He has delivered nearly 20 projects and holds a master's degree in information systems, a bachelor's degree in information technology, and a post diploma in software and database development. In addition, he's also the founder of bablocks.com, fantastic website, folks, to teach business analysis to the next generation of business analysis professionals. So without further ado, folks, give Emal a very warm welcome. Today's going to be such a great segment, and it's going to be such a great topic. So make sure you're prepared to take notes. Make sure you're ready, and make sure you have your coffee ready or whatever it is you're drinking for a great conversation today. Emal, thanks so much for tuning in, and great to have you back.
Thanks for having me, Dean. I'm always happy to come on the show. You know, I try to attend every Wednesday, every time I can. So it's always a pleasure to come back on actually as a guest and share what I found. So thanks for having me on.
Thanks so much, Emal. Appreciate your support. And it's great to see you doing your own live streams as well. So for those of you watching, make sure you definitely follow Emal if you're not already. He's got some amazing live streams with some amazing guests himself. So make sure you connect with Emal at your end as well. So Emal, let's get right into it. Last when we spoke, you were speaking more about how business analysts can utilize ChatGPT. Now, this time around, you've been kind of playing around with it a bit more from a job search standpoint. Like, how can people, especially business analysts, how they can leverage ChatGPT for their job search? So, what were your key findings? What did you find?
It's ongoing work, but with all of the research that I've done right now for job seekers, I have found 3 use cases that I think add a ton of value to a job seeker. Number 1 is in ChatGPT's ability to help you rebuild your resume if that's something you need to do. And we can share some specific prompts that folks can use to start doing that. And I can show you how I actually took my resume from 4 pages to 2 pages. I know, Dean, I tune in every Wednesday and I hear folks asking questions about how long people's resumes should be. I think your guidance always is as short as possible. My resume is 4 pages long. I've gotten it down to 2. I'll show you how. That's use case number 1. The second thing that I'm thinking back in my own career, the second thing that I used to struggle with when I was going through a lot of interviews was in trying to kind of understand who's going to be at the table during an interview. And so ChatGPT, surprisingly enough, can help you actually start to speculate a little bit about who's actually going to be there so that you can start to play out the interview in your own mind.
Right.
And I'll show us how to actually do that. That's the second use case. It's super helpful. I think the third one's actually going to blow everybody away, because the third one is using ChatGPT as kind of like a prep buddy to help you actually prepare for an interview. And you'll be surprised at how well ChatGPT can start to pretend like it is the hiring manager and start asking you some questions that you might actually see in an interview. So for those of you who've always struggled with trying to figure out how to prepare for an interview, the last 2 tips, especially the last tip number 3, blew me away. It'll blow you away, hopefully, but start to use that to help you prepare. So a lot of stuff to talk about.
Oh, that's amazing. So let's start with the first use case, Emal. Like, and let me know if you want me to share your screen.
Sure. We do have, for the folks that want to actually look at the prompts that we have, I've prepared some materials. And hey, folks, I wouldn't do this for anybody else. Dean, when I'm showing up on Dean's show, I got to step it up, because I watch Dean's live sessions and I'm like, all right, I have to put in a ton of effort to keep up with Dean. So I've prepared specifically a page on our website to help us through this conversation. It actually gives you the specific prompt. So if you share your screen, I can actually show folks exactly what it is that we've done. I'm going to have to put on my glasses here so that we can see the screen ourselves. So if you go to bablocks.com/job, kept the URL as easy as possible, you're going to see the 3 use cases that I talked about earlier, right? Number 1 is how to rebuild your resume. And I went through this exercise myself. You can see my resume here extends out to 4 pages. I reduced it down to 2. How did I do that? Well, I tell you exactly how that conversation with ChatGPT went. And what you should be doing is copying this and pasting it right into the ChatGPT window to get it to respond to you in the way that you want it to. Designing this first prompt with ChatGPT is a skill that is quickly becoming actually like a full-time job for some people, and it takes a lot of
Very
refinement
interesting.
to get
Yeah.
that first statement out. So this has been refined. This isn't, I didn't just type this out once. I typed it out multiple times and I refined my prompt to get it to look this way so that I can get ChatGPT to start responding in a good way. So I would say copy this, paste it into your window, and start to see how you can start to interact with it moving forward. That's use case number one that we can talk about. Use case number two here is to do some stakeholder analysis on your interviewees. The question that I've asked, and again, I've designed this prompt and refined it over the last couple of weeks to get it to what it is. But if you ask it this question, it will know what it needs to know to start asking, to actually start providing you with the information that you need. So that's another thing that we can talk about, how to do some stakeholder analysis on your interviewees that you might not know anything about.
Very interesting.
And this one's a long one. So this one I've actually, we can walk through it in detail. This one's a long one because I give you a lot of detail on what to do there. The third one, we could actually demo it live if you want. And I have prepared our ChatGPT window here. I've to actually demo this one live if we need to. And this one, I think, is probably the most useful. And what this does is it actually helps you. ChatGPT pretends like it is the hiring manager, and it asks you very intelligent questions just to get you into the right frame of mind for the interview. So I think we should demo this one live if we can get there.
Absolutely. Wow. That's Emal, you prepared so much great information. I'm so excited to, get started with this. Folks, make sure you hit like, make sure you comment, make sure you share this stream with everyone in your network, because things are about to get serious here, and Emal's going to get into it. But before we get into the first use case, Emal, like I was wondering, like how much did you have to play with the prompts to really get the results that you were looking for? Like what helped guide you on how to word, the prompts that you were putting into ChatGPT?
Actually, you know what? Let me just show you exactly. If you go to bablocks.com, you know what? I'll show you right now. I'll show you a picture that makes sense. bablocks.com/AI actually explains to you the pattern that I use to establish these things. So basically, the process that you'd have to go through to build and refine your prompt is, I found that this process works the best. Essentially, what you have to do is you have to think very clearly about what kind of response you want. That's step one. You have to design your prompt, which means you write out a sentence requesting something, submit your request, and when it puts it out, you have to actually iterate through this piece a number of different times to get that first prompt to look exactly the way that you want. And then you kind of integrate it into your work. So I've kind of given some guidance to folks on bablocks.com/AI on how to do what I've done here with these first prompts that I'm showing you. Mm-hmm. To answer your question more directly, how long did it take me to design these prompts? I've worked on it on and off for a couple of weeks to actually do the research behind this. But since when we talked, I would say this first prompt probably took me a couple of hours to get it to where it is. But the second and third ones became easier and easier. So it takes time to iterate. It'll take you a couple of hours to get the first prompt right. But for the folks who are actually looking to do the job search, I've done that hard work for you. This is the refined prompt. But if you want to learn how to do what I'm doing with ChatGPT right now, you might want to go a bit deeper and figure out how to build your own prompt. So you can go in a couple of different directions.
Okay, gotcha. And in terms of, really building out the resume, now would you say that this would apply to any field? Like I know most of the folks tuning in are probably business analysts themselves, but would it be kind of the same structure and approach to pretty much any field?
Absolutely. I aim towards business analysts because those are the folks that I'm helping. But if you're trying to build a resume, or if you're trying to refine your resume, it doesn't matter what field you're in, because these questions are generic enough there's nothing about business analysis in this conversation. It's just the subject matter. So when I paste my actual resume, that's about business analysis because of the subject matter of my resume. Anybody can use these prompts. Doesn't matter if you're doing business analysis. It doesn't matter if you're doing any other type of role.
That's amazing. And I'm just reading some of the prompts here and like your conversation with ChatGPT, and ChatGPT tells you to basically copy and paste your resume onto the screen.
Yeah.
Now, Emal, does your resume have to be like in a clear text format? Because I know some people out there, they use graphics and charts and tables and stuff like that. Like, so how would those people go about copying and pasting?
The best way I found is what you do is you copy the text of your resume from your Word document or whatever you're using. Okay. And what you should do is paste it into something like Notepad before you paste it into ChatGPT. And I don't put a lot of effort into cleaning this up. Essentially, what I did was I just copied everything out of my Word document, pasted it into Notepad, didn't look at it at all, just copied it back out of Notepad and pasted it into ChatGPT. It does the hard work of figuring stuff out for you. So the intermediary step that you'll see here in my conversation is, for example, I ask it a question. It tells me that it's ready. And then what I do is I essentially just paste my resume. So for the example that I didn't even clean it. I just copied it because my resume is relatively clean. I don't use tables or anything like that.
Yeah.
I just copied and pasted. But if you have a lot of formatting in here, you want to do the intermediate step of pasting it into a Notepad to strip out all of the formatting and paste it back in. So basically, the way that this conversation went is that I asked it a question. It told me it was ready. I pasted my resume in. It first actually gave me an error because my resume was so long, and I was using the free version of ChatGPT. I do have the paid version, but I'm trying to create the use cases for folks who are not even using the paid version.
Okay.
So I had to go through a couple of different pieces. So I essentially went through and it did it piece by piece. So I said, okay, it told me that I had exceeded the character limit. And I said, okay, you know what? Just do the experience section of my resume first.
Mm-hmm.
And it did the experience section. I took the experience section, pasted it back into Notepad to clean out the formatting that ChatGPT has, and then pasted it back into my resume and then cleaned it up a little bit. And then, so I did my resume section by section. So my experience section, for example, goes from the first page all the way down to the bottom of the fourth page, it looks like here. And so what it did was it actually took, it summarized my experiences to essentially to be 1 or 2 pages long instead of like 3 or 4 pages long, right? So that's how I used it.
Interesting. And Emal, like, how does ChatGPT, or how can I word this? How does it know what to omit and what not to omit in order to shorten your resume? Like, how much control do we have over what it chooses to include or exclude?
So there's 2 questions there. I'll answer them separately. How does ChatGPT know what to omit? If you just ask it a question without giving it too many detailed instructions, it just makes its own assumptions. And that logic, I don't think anybody understands. Even the folks at OpenAI won't be able to explain that they won't be able to explain to you how ChatGPT does something. They've been asked about that, and they're saying, hey, we don't know. It is so advanced, and its logic is so advanced that it's hard for them to trace exactly how it does it. So question number 1, how does it know? I think nobody knows the answer to that question. Okay. But the answer to your second question is how much control do we have? The answer to that question is that we have in almost an unlimited amount of control, because the way that you teach ChatGPT what you want from it gives you the control that you need. So for example, if I paste in my experience section and I say, I feel like my resume is too wordy, summarize it down to what a hiring manager needs to see, it might summarize things for a human. If I say, my resume, I think, is missing a lot of keywords, and I want you to start adding in a lot of keywords that maybe the ATS wants to see, it'll give me a different response, right? You have a ton of control, and that's control you can actually build it into your prompts. And that's why prompt engineering is quickly starting to become a career, because it takes a ton of effort to build very well-structured prompts to get the type of output that you're specifically looking for. So that control that you asked about actually is a full-time job now for some folks. It's called prompt engineering, essentially, for people. So that's essentially what I've been doing, right? Sorry, not that one there, but when I went, not to steer things too far out, but this pattern right here is part of what teaches you how to do prompt engineering. This is specifically for business analysts, but this is quickly becoming a full-time job now for some folks out there.
Yeah, because I'm thinking like the quality of the output is definitely very much important based on how good your prompt is. Because if you're not putting in the right stuff in the prompt, it's not going to output the whatever the result you're looking for. So I can totally see that.
Yeah. I have, and what you just said is especially true in this third example, because trying to get it to building out this prompt to get it to act as a hiring manager took me a while to figure out. And I had to be very, very blunt with it to say, and I said, you have to now assume the role of a hiring manager, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't just go in and say, hey, I'm applying for an interview. I want you to ask me questions. I wasn't getting the kind of responses I wanted. So I had to be way more forceful with it and say, I want you to just now act as you're a hiring manager. And here are the clear instructions that I'm going to give you on how this interview is going to go. And we're going to take it step by step based on the instructions that I've given you here. So I've engineered that prompt specifically for people who want to go through the experience of being interviewed by a hiring manager.
Got it. And to the folks watching, feel free to keep putting your questions there. I will get to your questions and comments every now and then. I think we had Deb shared the link for Emal's BA Blocks page. So thanks for sharing that, Deb. And Deb also said, ask a question, I guess. Did you strip out your PII? I'm not sure what that means. Is that
personal information, possibly?
Oh, okay.
So I didn't when I was doing the resume, but I actually didn't include the header. When I copied my resume, I copied it section by section because my resume was too long. So it doesn't have my personal information, but you can see I've kind of blacked out my email address and my phone number here for publishing on the web. Hopefully that answers the question.
Okay, awesome. Sounds good. And someone on YouTube, Shared Pat 777 says, "There you go, new job created, prompt engineering." Wow, elbow bump. Yeah, exactly, right.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so Emal, if perhaps we can move on to the next use case that you found. Actually, before we get to that, I did want to ask one quick question about this.
Sure.
How did ChatGPT output the new version of your resume? Does it respond with a downloadable file, or is it just a text, or?
It's all text. So I can actually go through and show you some of the conversations just so you can see what it looks like. The actual conversation that I had with it was quite long, but you can see here is that I say, hey, my resume is currently 6 pages. I want you to make it 1 page. It says I'm ready. And we had some issues around character limits, but what I essentially did was I pasted my experience section in here, and it responded. Let's go down. Oh man, that experience section is so long. All right, it responded like this was its response. And so what I did was I just copied this. I copied it out of ChatGPT like this, and I went into a clean document to strip out all of the formatting. And then I copied this and put it into my Word document resume so that it's clean text.
Okay. And when you were comparing both, Emal, like your original version of your resume as well as this new version, what did you notice that it had omitted? Like, was it like extra words or a certain way of describing things, or what were your observations on that?
It summarized things. I mean, look, we can go right back. Let's go to page 1 of my resume, right? So I think this is excellent that we have this up here so we can actually look at an example here, right? So I essentially told it, for example, that, hey, I engaged 50 plus stakeholders on this high-level business requirements. Its response on that specific piece, we can see right away, was right here it says it essentially just summarized the conversation without losing much of the actual details. So it still kept the 50 plus stakeholders. What it did was it actually wrote it in words that are, it's a more condensed format,
Right.
not so wordy for this case. But again, if you remember the question that you asked about how much control that I have, if I didn't like this response, I would say, hey, can you try again, but reduce it even more, condense it even more. Feel free to strip out some details like numbers.
Yeah.
And it would give me a totally different response and shorten this even more. So you have that kind of control once you start your conversation with ChatGPT.
Awesome. Awesome. And we got a question from someone on YouTube. Emal, Samad says, we don't have paid version of ChatGPT. How different is it with the normal version? What advantages do you get? So I know you playing around with both. So I know you
Excellent question. I'll show you. I'll demo it. So if I start a new chat here, the free version of ChatGPT has two different things that it doesn't offer to you. Okay. Number one is that it doesn't give you GPT-4, and GPT-4 is essentially the next evolution of ChatGPT, right? The free version essentially gives you the 3.5 version, which is the version that I use to do all of this work. I intentionally use 3.5 just so that my output is on the free version of ChatGPT.
Right.
The second thing that the free version doesn't do is with the speed. So the free version of ChatGPT is way slower, right? And I can demo it for you right now. One of the cities that I'm interested in visiting is Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And I'll say, hey, how's the weather in KL, Malaysia? See how fast it is?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
That is what the paid version does that the free version doesn't do for you. It takes a lot longer for the free version to actually doesn't have real-time information. Okay, I'll follow up on this for my trip planning later on. But but that's you can see the live demo of how fast it is. So the free version essentially doesn't give you version 4, and it's a little bit slower when it comes to responding.
Awesome. We got a comment here from Deb. Deb says, note the copy option next to the thumbs up and down at the top.
There we go. This is something that's totally skipped. And let me, you know what? I'll do that offline. I don't want to spend people's time here testing it out, but thank you, Deb.
Yeah. All right. So Emal, let's talk about the second use case.
Mm-hmm. All right, so for the second one, essentially what what it essentially helps you to do is to start speculating a little bit about what kind of people are going to be at the table for the interview. Mm. And so with the second one, I've essentially told it, hey, look, I've been invited to interview for a junior business analyst job. I want to prepare by understanding what kind of people are going to be at the table, essentially is what this prompt says. So I've refined it. Then the way that I essentially ran this is that I said, I want to prepare. It says I'm ready. I always ask it, I'm trying to be polite. I said, are you ready for me to share my job posting? It says, yes, I'm ready. It says, yes, I'm ready. Share the job posting. But there's actually another good reason for why I do this, but just follow the prompts.
I was going to say that's very Canadian of you.
It's Canadian, number one. You're trying to be polite, but at the same time, what it does is it separates the prompts. It separates the content of your resume from your actual prompt, so that you're not using quotation marks to include the rest of your resume.
Okay,
gotcha. And if you are starting to hit limits, for example, in the question that you're asking, separating your question out into multiple pieces is actually a bit of a workaround, so that you can separate out your question into smaller chunks and you don't hit the text limit of what you can ask it. So
right.
It's definitely polite, but there is actually a good reason for why I do it. Okay. Other than that, because the job posting, and I've provided the link to the job posting that I actually use that as an example, but you can actually use any job posting that you want. So I've provided the link to the job posting. I did a quick search for a junior business analyst job, and here is all of the text that I used from that job posting. You can copy this directly and paste it right in. I've just left it as raw text. This essentially is the job posting. I pasted in, and I said, I'm preparing for this job. And it went through and it said, based on the job posting you've given me, it seems like Shoppers Drug Mart is the company that's hiring for this role. Uh, it gave me some background about the
Man, that's
hiring
so cool.
manager,
This is really cool.
experience, mindset, and very specifically about the needs that this hiring manager might have for that role, right? And so it's starting to actually give me a lot of details. Now, there's a couple of different directions we could go in a conversation like this, right? So I looked at the response that it gave me based on just my initial question. And then I asked her, I said, you know what? Let's call this person John, right?
Mhm.
I'll come back to this person in a couple of minutes, but tell me who else is going to be at the table here.
Okay.
And it said, well, based on the job posting, it's possible that there might be somebody from, it's going to be the hiring manager, but there may be another senior business analyst at the table.
Mhm.
There may be somebody from HR at the
HR.
table, right? So already I'm starting to understand what the situation might look like just based on understanding who might be at the table. And so for first-time interviewers or folks who are totally new to interviewing, it can be a little bit overwhelming if you're being interviewed by 3 people at the same time, right?
Okay.
Not knowing that ahead of time and thinking you're going to be interviewed by one person, and now a senior business analyst walks in and an HR person walks in, like that
Yeah.
can shock a job seeker if they're not prepared for it. So already I'm starting to prepare myself mentally to be interviewed possibly by 3 people instead of 1, right? That's the big benefit of having asked these types of questions. So I said, okay, that's good. Let's call the HR rep Kulaweera. I'll come back to her later on. Can you now elaborate on the specific needs that John might have based on the job posting? And so essentially what I've asked it to do is that earlier it told me some stuff about the needs. I've gotten kind of the lay of the land and understand who's at the table. And now I'm going more deeply and asking it to speculate essentially on the kind of things that John would need based on the job posting. And so now they're saying, hey, there might be some data collection analysis. There might be some decision support tools. There may be some stakeholder engagement. You might need to have these skills, right? And now this is starting to help me understand, okay, so this is a possibility of where the conversation can go. And now I can start to prepare myself. How would I answer a question? How can I get myself into a place where I'm asking John possibly about their stakeholders? John might not ask me a question in the interview, but I've done my homework and I come in and I say, hey, John, I have a question for you. Can you tell me maybe a little bit about the kind of stakeholder work I might have to do as part of this role? John might be surprised. Hey, that's actually a really good question, right? You've come into this interview prepared. And so doing things like this and using ChatGPT to start preparing like this is, for this second use case, can kind of help you get the lay of the land of what the interview situation is going to look like. And based on the kind of questions that you ask ChatGPT, it can start to get you into a little bit more depth. Like you can see how ChatGPT is really good at role playing, right? It can pretend like it's John. It can just look at a job posting and start to help you speculate on the kind of things that John needs to do. ChatGPT has a lot of knowledge about people like John, and it uses a lot of that to help you speculate. And this takes you from a mindset where you're nervous because you have no idea what's going to happen in the interview, to a mindset where you now have some idea of how this interview can go, right? And that in itself can help you. It'll help you de-stress, because even though the interview might not go exactly like this, you at least now you have one example of how it could go. And you have some confidence because you've built up some answers for these types of questions, right? A lot of folks, I think, struggle with interviews, not because they don't have the experience or the knowledge, or not because they're not a good fit. It's just because they're so nervous in a job interview. And the purpose of this one is to help you kind of calm your nerves a little bit, get a little bit of confidence and say, you know what? I've done a bit of a sample. I kind of have a lay of the land. And that's what this is meant to kind of help you with.
Yeah, and I think this is so great, and I totally agree with what you're saying, because every now and then, and sometimes when job seekers are applying for jobs, they don't always get like a good solid internal contact that lets them know and gives them a heads up on, hey, who's going to be there, what can you prepare for, what topics are going to be covered.
Yeah,
So in those cases, I think this is such a great feature if ChatGPT can kind of help people lessen that that stress and anxiety associated with, oh my God, who am I going to be meeting with? How can I prepare and all that stuff. And even in cases, I would say, where the job description might not be like 100% accurate, like in terms of the job,
yeah,
I would say that this would still be helpful, because at least you're getting a rundown of what to expect, potentially at the interview. So I
absolutely.
think this
I
is great.
remember in my own career, not to cut you off, I remember in my own career, I mean, I would always ask a lot of questions. If I get
Yeah,
somebody on the phone and they're saying, "Hey, we're going to set up an interview," I don't let that person go until I get answers to all my questions. But
yeah,
I know a lot of folks are hesitant to engage with
that's right.
recruiters or with interviewers in that way. So when I was getting ready for a job interview and I had the person on the phone, I would say, "Hey, can you give me an idea of who I'm interviewing with?" I would ask them, and they would say, "Oh yeah, sure." But a lot of people don't ask that, right?
That's right. Yeah.
ChatGPT can help you speculate a little bit on that. One of the other questions I would always ask is, can you give me a sense of whether this is more of a technical interview or whether it's more of a behavioral interview? And I would always ask that because I want to know, should I be brushing up on my technical skills? Should I be diving into my experiences and just figuring out, hey, are they going to ask me a question about how to write a user story or use case or do a mockup? Or are they going to ask me more about how I'm going to deal with stakeholders and how I would deal with conflict situation, for example, right?
Right.
I would ask those. I know a lot of people don't. ChatGPT can help you speculate. If you have somebody on the phone, you're I would say skip ChatGPT even and just ask the person directly those
That's right. Yeah.
questions. If you
Absolutely.
have the confidence,
Yeah.
do that. If you haven't thought about it or you forgot and you don't have the confidence to do that yet, use ChatGPT as a bit of a buddy to help you prepare.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point, Imal. I'm glad you brought that up, because I definitely agree with that. It is always best to speak with someone, like an actual person, so you can get the real rundown of what to expect.
Yeah.
But again, if that's beyond your level of comfort, or for whatever reason you don't have a point of contact internally at the organization, I think this is amazing. Now, quick question, Imal:
Yeah.
Does ChatGPT integrate with like third party platforms? Like, I'm just thinking, like, let's say I'm a job seeker, right? I'm on ChatGPT and I'm like, hey, Chat, can I do something like, hey, ChatGPT, what jobs are available in XYZ area? You know what I mean? Like, does it integrate with third party platforms in any sense right now, or is that not like a feature? Like, you have to input everything.
How to answer it? So ChatGPT directly from OpenAI doesn't, but
Okay,
every single day there are new extensions, new tools
that's
that are
amazing.
being released that kind of claim to be able to do that for you. I haven't tested those tools yet because I'm still exploring the depths of ChatGPT itself in a lot of detail. The other thing I would say is that you might have noticed that I'm starting to use Microsoft's browser now for ChatGPT, and there's a very
I see.
specific
Okay.
reason why I've switched over to Microsoft's browser. It's because now they have this little button on the side here, where what they're doing is they have a little ChatGPT based buddy on the side of the browser that you can start to ask questions. So why don't we just test that right now? Hey, how many I'll say junior business analyst jobs are there in Toronto right now? Let's see. I mean, we're finding out in real time here
Oh
of whether
wow.
it can get us that info. So this tool isn't as good as ChatGPT yet. Well, according to my web search results, there are currently 11 junior business analyst jobs. That sounds completely wrong.
Yeah.
Toronto's job market is way bigger than that. I would say, additionally, LinkedIn shows that there are 645 business
Yeah.
analyst jobs in Toronto. Okay, all right. So it's web searching. Didn't produce any results, but it went to LinkedIn and it's 645. That number looks
Okay.
a lot more reasonable.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I would say that I prejudged AI. I'm sorry for having done that just based on that 11 numbers. Let me apologize right now, but I would say that it's done a quite an okay job with the second sentence over here. So I think we have our answer for that one. And actually, it's giving me some answers here for specific jobs that we can apply for as well. So tip that I didn't include on our website yet is get a copy of, if you've been avoiding using Microsoft's Edge browser, start using it and start using this little button on the side here, because they are going to constantly start refining the AI capabilities here right now. Just this on its own, it's for me to get this information out of LinkedIn would be hard for me to do. I'd have to take a couple of steps. I'd know to do it. As the technology starts to get better, it might start reaching out to other data sources and give you a much more complete picture. So start using it now, start getting yourself used to it right now.
Yeah, I mean that's and Imal, do you have to have the paid version to do this, or is this on the free?
No, this is just download. I just downloaded a browser. There was a waiting list to get this feature for a while, and I just put my email in, and they eventually, it just one day it just appeared. The button just appeared on my browser, and I started using it. So,
Oh, that's fantastic. And because for job seekers, one of the most time-consuming aspects is simply finding or finding locating the jobs that are right fit for them. So I think this would be such a great feature for people to use.
yeah, I'm going to ask it about its sister city, if you don't mind.
Yeah, yeah. Go
Toronto
ahead.
and Chicago are basically the exact same size in terms of economy, business analyst jobs, its size, people, etc. So let's see if it gives us an idea of how many jobs, junior business analyst jobs, there are in Chicago. There are currently over 1,000 junior business analyst jobs available on LinkedIn in Chicago. So looks like Chicago's job market is maybe a little bit healthier than Toronto's when it comes to looking for junior business analyst jobs. I could ask it about New York. Hey, I could ask it about Denver, Colorado, which is another city I've been wanting to visit. So you could essentially go through and start to get a lay of the land. Whatever job market you're in, I would say go here and start asking it some questions and see what your job market looks like. If it doesn't, it tells you what you need to do. Either you need to start looking for different types of jobs, or you need to figure out how to get access to another job market, possibly, right? So the level of intelligence here is huge. The time-saving capabilities for those folks who have been just kind of grinding it out and trying to apply for job after job and using the same techniques that they've been using for the last, X number of years, I would say that AI can make your life way simpler. And that's what the whole purpose of this conversation is.
That's awesome. So we got Deb Derringer who says LinkedIn has some built-in AI-powered features on the jobs tab that are worth checking out. Yeah, I got to check that out myself as well. But thanks for sharing that, Deb.
Fun fact, based related to what Deb's saying. So there's a huge competition right now between the big players in tech around AI. And I've made the decision to switch all of my tech from Google to Microsoft.
Oh.
So internally, for running our own internal operations, instead of using Google Drive, I'm starting to switch to OneDrive, SharePoint, Microsoft Teams, etc. I'm starting to shift all of our operations under the Microsoft umbrella. The reason why that's important is because Microsoft has a huge stake in ChatGPT.
Right.
But for those folks who don't know, Microsoft actually also owns LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's right.
So Microsoft is way ahead of everybody else. And hey, I go where the best tools are, right? I've been telling people to use Microsoft Visio for a long time. And I've gotten a lot of disagreements from folks who say, no, I want to use Lucidcharts. I want to use X, Y, and Z. I said, look, stick with Microsoft. They have a massive footprint in enterprise. And here's another reason now to stick with Microsoft is because they now have a massive lead above everybody else when it comes to AI integration. They actually have a tool. If you go to the website that we have here, you'll notice on our AI website, not to get too far off of track, it may take us a while to get through. I have a lot of knowledge to share here, but you might see this logo right here from time to time. The Microsoft Copilot is Microsoft's initiative essentially to include AI into its Office 365 suite. So eventually what's going to happen is you open up Microsoft Excel and you have a little Copilot icon there. That Copilot icon is now your helper, your AI-based helper that helps you answer questions. So you open up a spreadsheet of, let's say, your own personal budget, and you say, hey, how much money did I spend this month on going out to eat? You don't have to go through the spreadsheet anymore. Copilot can answer that question for you, right? Very much like I did with the little helper on the side. Essentially, Copilot, you're going to see a little icon exactly like this show up in Microsoft 365. That's going to start answering these questions for you. So let's say you're working on, let's say you take a job posting, copy it out of LinkedIn, paste it into a Word document, and start asking ChatGPT a lot of questions. You can do that directly in Word once Copilot comes out. How many, I would ask, if I see a job posting, I would say, what are the 3 key skills I should build to qualify for this job?
Yeah.
And it should be able to give me an answer for that question, right? So I'm shifting over to Microsoft. I'm going to recommend that other folks do too, because of all of the reasons that I just talked about. So that's another tip out there.
Awesome. I mean, and you brought up a great point about Microsoft obviously has invested a huge amount into ChatGPT, and they do own LinkedIn. Like, do you foresee that there's going to be some kind of a I don't know, special integration, or like what do you think they're going to do with LinkedIn? Like, I'm sure they'll something might be in the works. I mean, that would be huge, right? If there was some kind of that would be crazy.
You know what? Let me speculate. And if anybody from Microsoft is listening, hey, reach out to me, because I got so many use cases that I would like for you to build, and I am trying to get my priorities onto your product backlog over there at Microsoft. So, but I would say that, look, if I was to try to speculate, if I was really to try to dream about what the future state of LinkedIn should look like, really, you have a helper there that answers any kind of question that you have. So for example, I would say, hey, are there any LinkedIn groups out here that deal specifically with this subject matter?
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn has so much data in groups, in posts, and everything else. It's such a massive knowledge base of actual knowledge. If you layer some AI on top of that, or if you train some AI bot on the actual LinkedIn data set,
oh man,
I should be able to go in and say, hey, look, I'm a business analyst with 5 years of experience. Can you give me an idea of how I compare with everybody else in my job market?
Yeah.
And what skills you think I should be focusing on based on everybody else who's on LinkedIn, who does this job on a day-to-day basis, right? I mean, the potential there is so massive. And a lot of what that does is it actually starts to get us away from having to rely on marketing material to answer these questions. And now you have a real data set. You have an AI chatbot that you can go to ask it the types of questions. So, I mean, look, I could talk about this forever. I'll let you drive the conversation, but there's a lot there.
Absolutely. I mean, it's very exciting to see how things will pan out. Maybe that's definitely. I think we could probably do an entire different stream just to talk about that stuff.
I think we should. I would love it. I'm there.
Yeah. So Emal, let's talk about the third use case that you. I know you said that this was the one that's really gonna blow people's minds.
Yeah. So the third use case, if we go back to the actual prompts, looks something like this. All right. So let's go back to the third one. So one of my biggest challenges when I was building my career was in actually getting practice interviewing questions and trying to get myself really revved up before the interview by going through like a pre-interview with somebody, because I can't find a hiring manager. I could ask my friend, but they don't know too much about the job and they can't really do a good job of helping me prep.
Yeah.
That's the one that I think is really like the key use case for a business analyst. So I think we should demo this one in person. So here is the question we have asked it. All right. So I think, let me go back to interview. Okay. So here's the prompt that I gave to ChatGPT. Let's close this window here. I said, you are now the hiring manager for the position that I'm going to give you the job posting for. Okay. You are about to interview me for the job. I've passed the phone screening and this is the first interview. You will ask me a question and wait for me to say next question. Once I've prompted you for the next question, you will proceed to the next question you have for me as the interviewer. Are you ready for the job posting? It says, yes, I'm ready. So what am I going to do? I'm going to take the next step here. I have already taken the job posting that we talked about earlier. And hold on a second. This is not the right window here. Oh, I think I might have replaced my text file here. Sorry, folks. Okay. Bit of a hiccup when I tried to do that. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do is I'll do live is hard, but let me just go back to the job posting here. I have it right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this job posting. Okay. And I'm going to paste this job posting right into, let's go to paste this job posting right into ChatGPT so that it knows what kind of questions to ask us. And I think this job posting is quite long, and here it is. So the job posting essentially starts right here. I'm going to copy this, Control C, and I'm going to go back to ChatGPT and I'm going to paste that job posting in. Let's just make sure this looks good. And I'm going to hit OK. So it says, thank you for providing the job posting. Based on the information you provided, it seems like you're applying for the role of a workflow optimization analyst. Again, the job title is a little bit different than business analyst, but the job is an analyst job. For a 4-month contract starting in May. Is this correct? Let's begin the interview. Can you tell me about your experiences in collecting, analyzing data on workflow and processes through database queries and time studies? So,
wow, that's so cool.
Just like every single interview that I've had has always started with a question like this. And interviewers always ask you this question because they want to give you a warm up. They want to give you a chance to relax a little bit. And this is right on point, right? This matches my experience of having been interviewed many times. This is exactly my experience of having the type of question that a hiring manager would ask. So what would I do? I would sit there and I would say, okay, how am I going to explain these to folks? And I do have a couple of YouTube videos on our channel where I actually talk about how to answer this question and why they ask this question and what you can do to actually facilitate the conversation really well based on how you answer this question. But once you answer the question, the way I would answer this essentially is that I would say, here are the 2 other job experiences that I've had where I've done this. I'm happy to elaborate on it more, right? Mm-hmm. And give the conversation back to the interviewer and see whether they want me to elaborate on any specific of the experiences that I've had.
Yeah.
And so, excellent question, but I'm going to say move on to the next question. So I'm just going to say next question. Sure. Can you tell me about your experiences in analyzing performance metrics such as processing time, lead times, and quality, and how you have used this information to improve workflow processes? So for many of the folks who may be looking at this and getting stressed out just by being asked these questions for a junior business analyst, this is a junior analyst for much more of a quantitative type of job. So it may not necessarily be the type of job you're applying for. I've chosen one that kind of stretches my limits a little bit on the questions that I can even answer. So even though this is a junior analyst role, because I haven't done specifically this kind of work, I could answer this question, but I wouldn't be able to answer it as well as another junior analyst who's actually specialized in doing this kind of work. All right. So this, to me, I would have an answer to this, right? Analyzing performance metrics such as processing times, lead times, and quality. I have done a project, as it happens, that deals with this, and I would be able to answer this question. And so I would answer it I have a very clear answer in my mind. And so we won't waste it. We could spend probably another workshop going through what my answers would be, but I'll just say next question. But what the point here is that the next question that it asks is, it says, can you give me an example of a time when you had to work with complex systems and models to identify and solve problems related to workflow optimization? How did you approach the problem? Excellent question. I mean, this is as realistic as these kind of interviews get. And you start to see that what this does is it actually puts you in an interview situation, before you walk into an interview, it puts you in a bit of a simulated interview situation where it feels a little bit more real now. You're thinking, oh man, I don't have an answer to that question. How would I answer this question? And now it gives you a chance to do some more prep work, right?
Yeah.
And you can say, sure, the job posting mentions the experience Python R is required. Most business analysts don't need to know this.
Mhm.
So this job posting is very specific to that. But do you have any experience? This is like an analyst job that has some analytics and data analysis work kind of bolted onto it quite a bit. So that's why you're starting to see some more technical skills.
Right.
Do you have any experience with either of these programming languages? All right, I would say this already disqualifies me because I don't know Python or R. If they had asked about SQL, I'd be able to say, oh yes, quite a bit. But I haven't ventured that far out into data analysis, so I'm disqualified for this job already. I shouldn't have even applied for this job.
Well, it does say it's an asset, so maybe not.
maybe but I would say yeah. I mean, it's, hey, maybe I would give it a shot and see what they say. But
Yeah.
But you can see what this actually does for you, right? I did a quick search for a job posting, and I took one that was at more of a junior level.
Yeah.
But I would do this for actual job postings that I'm interested in applying for, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that I used to get a couple of years ago, I would get a lot of questions from folks who say, hey, do you think I qualify for this job? And I would look at the job postings and I would give them my real advice.
Mhm.
And actually on our YouTube channel, I have a bunch of videos where I actually just walk through a job posting and I explain to folks what a job posting is. Why are they asking for that skill, right?
Yeah.
I explained that stuff. I'm not saying don't watch my videos, but if you want to take a shortcut, you could probably just paste your own job posting in here and get clear answer from ChatGPT, and then ask me, hey, is ChatGPT right on this? And I'll give you my input on top of ChatGPT, right? So you can see that it's a tool that can help you to do so much work. And the potential, I mean, we're still just scratching the surface here, Dean. So
Yeah.
we spent almost an entire hour talking about this.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping folks can start to see, at the very least, you can start to see the three use cases that in a way that's way more realistic, right? Just talking about it, I don't think would get this message across. I think if you see that what the actual prompt looks like, and you can copy this prompt, paste it into ChatGPT, that is going to get you way farther in the use of in being able to make use of ChatGPT in a way that's like actually very useful to you, instead of just, there's a lot of buzz. But if you can simulate an interview with a hiring manager based on a specific job posting, I mean, I don't think I'd even be able to hire somebody to do that if I wanted to. And now I have the answer right here. So.
Oh, that's amazing. And we have a great question here from JK on YouTube. JK says, could ChatGPT also provide an answer to these interview questions based on the resume fed into ChatGPT?
Let's find out. I would say, how would you answer this question? Yes, there you go.
There you go. As an AI language model, I don't have real world experience.
Yeah.
But
there you go.
But it is providing a sample answer.
It is. It doesn't have real world experience, but it tells you, if you did have the experience, here's how you can think through it. Like, I didn't even think to answer that. I didn't even think to ask ChatGPT this question because I'm trying to challenge myself. I'm saying, how would I answer this? But if you need a little bit of help, right, ask it and say, okay, well, that actually teaches me how I could answer it. And it starts to, what you want to do is you want to make sure you're not trying to memorize these answers. Exactly. What you want to do is you want to make sure you're trying to internalize the answer in a way where you can relate it to your own experience. It kind of opens up the door. It kind of removes the mental block you might have when you're stressed out. But it's not like, if you try to memorize this, that's not the right way to go. I hope folks don't think I'm suggesting that. What you want to do is you want to use it as kind of like a coach to say, all right, coach, prepare me for this. I'm not going to, your coach isn't asking you to memorize everything they're telling you. They're actually there to help you push yourself through by internalizing their message. So that's how you want to start to use all AI tools.
Yeah, 100% agree with that, because that's kind of my one concern. Anyone watching is like, oh yeah, so I should just memorize the answers, but no, that's not the way to go with it. And you're probably not going to do well at the interview, because it's going to be clearly very very clear to the interviewer that you're just
Oh, yeah.
regurgitating something that was memorized. So definitely don't do that.
Yeah.
I agree with what you're saying, Imal. Like, use it as kind of a kind of to see the structure and what you should include in your response, and then leverage your own experience when you're speaking about or talking about these responses. Imal, anything else you want to add regarding this particular use case?
The only thing I would leave folks with is to say that even with all of the research that we've done here, we're just scratching the surface,
Yeah.
because the potential that this tool has is so big that what it's going to essentially require is it's going to require true professionals to dedicate a lot of time to figure out where the real use cases actually are. That's part of the reason why we're launching the AI playbook. And I would let folks know that I've actually gotten a commitment. We're going to announce this in a couple of weeks, but I've gotten a commitment from a business analysis consulting company to dedicate some of their resources towards this playbook. And so this is going to be a joint effort between BA Blocks and that consulting company. Again, the official announcement's coming out in a couple of weeks. But we now have a pool of folks who are very well experienced, like the consulting companies dedicating their analysts who have 15 to 20 years of experience doing this job.
Yeah.
They're dedicating those resources towards building out this playbook. I would say that if you want to stay updated, you can go to bablocks.com/job or bablocks.com/AI. We try to make these URLs as simple as possible. bablocks.com/AI is going to take you to the playbook, and you can actually start to participate in building up our roadmap, because there's a form down here where you can tell us what you want us to research. And we have a backlog that we're starting to build out that includes specific use cases like this. This one for job seekers, hey, I did all of this specifically, Dean, for you and your workshop.
Thank you.
And so, like I said, I wouldn't go this far off of our roadmap for anybody else. Dean's helped me out quite a bit in helping to go live, and I feel like I can give back a little bit by helping some of the job seekers use these tools more effectively. So the only thing I would leave them with is to say that there's a lot more coming, and we're putting effort, and there are a lot of other seasoned professionals who have chosen to donate their time to this, right? It's costing them money to donate that time. Let's just understand that, is that they're donating real hard cash towards this to build up an asset that's going to help all business analysts. And so I'll leave it there. There's a ton more coming out.
Awesome. I know some of the folks in the comments are asking if a recording of this live stream will be available. And yes, absolutely. There will be a recording available immediately. Check out, I think Imal's streaming on his channels, and which is on LinkedIn as well as YouTube. I'm streaming this on my channel, so you can check out my LinkedIn profile as well as YouTube for the replay. You can watch this entire replay there. But I'm gonna get into the questions. But before I get into that, Imal, if you have a few minutes for the questions, I know we're at the
Absolutely.
1 hour mark now.
I'm here. I blocked off the
awesome.
whole extra hour after this just in case this happens, because I knew we were gonna go over time, so I blocked it off. I'm good.
Awesome. Yeah. So Imal, can you tell everyone a bit more about how you help people, how people can connect with you, and then more about BA Blocks as well?
BA Blocks, I'll show you very quickly what it is without taking up too much time. I've been a business analyst my entire career. I started studying business analysis in 2000. I started doing business analysis around 2005, and that's all I've done my entire career. Up until now, I've been keeping an eye on the training space in business analysis to see if there's going to be a program that teaches people how to do this job well. I haven't seen it, so I've decided to create it, and that's what BA Blocks is. And the purpose of this is to teach people the right skills at the right stage. We have a couple of different programs that we're launching. Our BAPC program is really meant for practitioners who have a little bit of experience, 3 to 5 to 8 years of experience, you're a good fit to learn how to do some of the core things. So I would say that if you want to learn this profession properly, this is the place to go. And so explore it as one of your options if you're looking to get trained as a business analyst. I've created this. Look, I'll tell you, I don't mean to put down anybody else's program or anything like that. That's not what this is about. But I am dedicated to delivering my vision for what I think business analysts need, because I just don't see it out there. And so that's my entire reason for creating this program.
Amazing. And the best way for people to connect with you, Emal, would be LinkedIn or YouTube, or
I would say connect with me on LinkedIn. We do have a community that opens up once a month, but you can find out more about that if you just connect with me on LinkedIn. That's probably the best place. I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. I use LinkedIn like Twitter. So I tweet on LinkedIn regularly. Follow me there.
Awesome. Sounds great. So folks, make sure, and I highly recommend, especially if you're a business analyst, definitely make sure you follow Emal. He's got so much great content, and I learned so much as a recruiter, because business analysis is an area I do recruit on. So I'm just Emal is one of the major ways that I use to stay informed about anything BA, and he's recently started doing some great live streams as well. So make sure you definitely check that out. Now we got a couple of questions, Emal, if you have a couple of more minutes. So we got Aziz. Aziz said, does the hiring manager know that I took help from ChatGPT to modify my resume? So I guess what he's asking is there a way for people to find out that you use ChatGPT for creating your resume or anything of that sort? Or
I don't think there's any way, but even if there was, I don't think it matters. I mean,
exactly.
This is the new world that we're going into, and everybody has access to the same tools. When they look at your resume, hopefully eventually resumes will go away altogether in the long run, but when they look at your resume and they see a good resume, they should be impressed that you use ChatGPT, because you have learned how to prompt it well to help you refine your capabilities. And they should be, if they are a Microsoft customer, and look, I'm not sponsored by Microsoft, folks. I'm just a fan of their tools. If they are a Microsoft shop, meaning they use a lot of Microsoft tools, that gives them the confidence that you can come in and actually know how to use the AI tools that Microsoft's going to be releasing, right? So I don't think it matters.
Yeah, and even from a recruiter standpoint, like, I mean, the main thing the resume should communicate is what you bring to the table. I mean, the actual conversation is going to take place at the interview. So Aziz, I don't think it should be an issue, even if there was a way to find out that you made it or altered it through ChatGPT. We got Bunmi, who says, can you please explain how to get the jobs on ChatGPT again? So Bunmi, you can watch the replay. I think you might have missed the beginning of the stream. So just watch the replay for what Emal covered. And Bunmi also asked how to enter the waiting list so we could have the option of the free version. So is there some process to do that, Emal? Or
I'm tempted to Google it right now because I don't have the answer.
Okay, no worries. So Bunmi, maybe maybe Emal, you can get back to them in the comments later on after you
sure
figure that out.
I'll do it by the end of the session, Dean, secretly on the side as we're answering questions.
Sounds good, Emal. And let's see. We've also got a question here from Hashim. So thanks, Hashim, for tuning in. Hashim says, hi, guys. Great session so far. Thanks, Hashim. Do you anticipate there being certifications offered by Microsoft on ChatGPT? And could there be full-time jobs associated with it in the industry?
There already are full-time jobs. If you Google prompt engineer job postings, you'll start to actually, you know what? I'm going to take this question out. Can you show me a prompt engineer job posting? Hey, since we have ourselves available here, let's answer some of these questions live. And hi, Hashim, by the way. Hashim's one of our students from our BAPC class from the last session.
All right,
so awesome. Just wanted to give Hashim a shout out. It is doing some so yeah, there are jobs, and it'll find you a job posting. vidIQ is a company out there that's offering a salary range of $100,000 to $300,000 for a prompt engineer. Folks, I'm announcing live that I am changing my career from business analysis to prompt engineer. I'm just joking.
You heard it here first, folks.
But look, it's a job right there. So For sure. I think there is this is the future. Learning how to do prompt work is going to be a full. It already is a full-time job that pays incredibly well, obviously. So the short answer is yes.
Awesome, awesome. Sounds good. So Hashim, hope that answered your question. Thanks for your question. Looks like we don't have any other questions here. We got a thumbs up here from Abdel Salam. Thanks so much. Aziz says thank you, Dean and Amal. Mohammed says thank you, Amal and Dean. Amal and Dean. And Unsung Heroes on YouTube puts a face blue smiling. I don't know what that means, but I guess that's a positive feedback there. But all right, so folks, thanks everyone for tuning in. Imal, thank you so much for the time you spent with us today, and you know, the amount of information you shared in regards to this. I'm sure a lot of people will benefit from you know, the information that you shared today, and the live demo. Really appreciate you taking the time to do that. And folks, make sure you follow Imal, connect with Imal on LinkedIn. Also, make sure you check out his website, bablocks.com. And Imal, I would love to have you again in the future. I'm sure we will collaborate again in the future and talk about some more amazing topics in relation to business analysis or ChatGPT as well. So thanks, Imal, again.
Take care, everyone.
All right. And thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Make sure you like and share this with your network. And we hope to see you again next time. Thanks, everyone, and everyone have a fantastic